I'm Brad Bonkowski, Supervisor, Carson City, Ward 2, and this is It's Your City. Yesterday, February 20th, we had a Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'd like to review some of the things that we talked about, discussed, and voted on yesterday. We had a very busy schedule. We were in session for about 10 hours, so it was a busy day for us. In the morning, we looked at several grants. We accepted a grant for $46,000 to help with fuels reduction in the wildland interface areas on the west side of town. In other words, this allows us to continue a program where we provide free dumpsters for residents to use to place landscape materials from their property in the areas in the foothills that are subject to fire danger. So we provide that service for free. We pick up and deliver, and that is a free service. So we will be able to continue that for one more year. We also accepted or approved applying for a grant for $35,000 to build a bridge, a footbridge, a non-motorized bridge in Ash Canyon to connect some of the walking trails up there. We also approved applying for a grant from the State Division of Health to implement a program for teens to help them make safer and healthier choices for sexual choices. In other words, it's an education program that we will provide to high-risk teenagers to help them make safer choices about sexual activity. So that's an important program. We then adjourned and we met as the Liquor and Entertainment Board, and we had a couple of items on our agenda. First, we approved a liquor license application for Francisco's Mexican Restaurant, who will be opening at the Carson Mall in April. So welcome to Francisco's, and if you get a chance, stop by, say hello, and try them out. We also heard a report from the Sheriff's Office about our compliance for liquor licensees. The Sheriff's Office goes out and they do compliance checks to make sure that the establishments that have liquor licenses in Carson City are not serving liquor or selling liquor to minors. And the good news is that we actually have the highest compliance rate in the entire state. For last year, 2013, it was over 90% compliance. So kudos to the Sheriff's Office. They are doing an excellent job at educating our businesses that have liquor licenses about the methods that they should use for compliance, and then the businesses are actually following through with that. So that's great news for our city. At the end of the morning session, we heard from Ralph Anderson and Associates, which is the firm that we hired to conduct the city manager search. We, as of Wednesday, had received 64 applications for the city manager's position, 17 of which are from local candidates, meaning Northern Nevada. The application period runs through today, the 21st, and we expect to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 applications by the time that application period closes. We also set the members of the citizens panel that is going to help us vet the search. So that is going to be a committee of 10 or 11 people made up of various stakeholder groups across the city, as well as a member from the public. And they will have an interview panel that will speak to the top candidates, and then they will provide us, the Board of Supervisors, with their comments to help us with the final interviews when we get to that, which will be sometime in April. So that process is moving along. We have received a lot of interest in that position, which just goes to show that there are a lot of people interested in living in our area because of the quality of life. At the end of our morning session, we approved on a first reading the ordinance that approves the issuance of bonds for water, sewer, and storm drainage improvements that are financed by the recent utility rate increases. So that ordinance will have to come back for one more reading, which should happen at the first meeting in February. And then those bonds should be sold probably in April, so we can then begin making the improvements to our water lines and most importantly to our sewage treatment facility, which is in great need of those improvements and replacements. So that completed our morning session. We came back in the afternoon at 2 o'clock to hear two issues, to have public hearings on a plan of expenditure to decide which, if any, projects could be financed by a proposed 1/8 cent sales tax increase. Then we had a second public hearing on the actual sales tax increase. The two public hearings took up about 2 hours of testimony, both for and against. And then we actually took up board discussion on those two items. Board discussion took up about an additional hour and a half. So at about 5:30 yesterday, we finally took up the actual votes. The board did vote to approve the plan of expenditure with the four commercial corridor improvement projects included, the multipurpose athletic complex included, the animal shelter included, and then we also included the community center because there is a need for improvements to the theater and the gymnasium space there, so we will look at that as well. What this vote and this item did was to just put into the pot the items that could theoretically be financed from the sales tax increase. So it doesn't actually approve any projects. It just gives us guidelines on which projects we can look at if we approve the sales tax increase. So once that was approved, then we moved on to the actual sales tax increase, and that vote was 4-1 to approve the increase, so that also was approved. So that, again, was a first reading of the ordinance to improve the sales tax increase. It has to come back for a second reading, which, again, should happen at the first meeting in March. Once the second reading has been approved, assuming that it is approved, then we will actually go to looking at financing methods, design, all the details that have to be fleshed out on these projects so that we can prioritize them. Then, once we have all of that information, then each component of these projects must come back to the board to be approved on an individual basis once we get to the point to where we're putting them out to bid. So what we've done is we have taken the first step of a long process to take care of a lot of outstanding issues that we have in our city. Beautifying and adding safety improvements to the 3 gateways, north, south, and east to our city. Taking care of some ADA issues and connectivity issues with sidewalks. Safety issues with additional street lights and pedestrian and bike pathways. There will be a potential public plaza in the Curry Street area for overflow for events, which gives us the ability to hold larger events downtown and potentially close off Carson Street for those events. In addition to building the multipurpose athletic center And finally, the item that we actually received the most feedback on and what people are most passionate about is replacing our animal shelter, which was built into the 60s and is frankly an embarrassment to the city. So that wraps up our agenda from yesterday. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.